Good afternoon, CUBE community, and welcome back to Las Vegas, Nevada. We are here in our last segment on day 3 of our 3 days of live coverage. My name is Savannah Peterson. In the cockpit here with John, we've got Sarb and Sanjeev today. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Very excited to have some insights. We're just going to go down the line and do some takeaways. Sarb, I'm going to you first because you've done your homework, and I am very impressed, and I want to hear all of your hot takes and all the good data from the show.
Me too.
No pressure. Yeah.
It's the homework actually I've done.
Sanjeev has it all in his head.
Well, actually, I usually have them in my head, but I just don't want to miss the bigger points. I think the Google Cloud is gaining traction with the help of their AI chops. AI is working as a propeller for their cloud. So it seems like it's a AI conference, not the cloud conference. I mean, AI everywhere, agents and,
really good point.
hardware is being highlighted. So if you have the performant hardware, that translates into better economics for the users of the platforms and enterprises, and the partners can do good while these vendors are working hard and spending like $60–70 billion a year on these R&D and all that. So I think they're like gaining traction. I mean, look at this expo. It's like I think almost doubled than last year. Energy is here.
Yeah, it's huge.
Like for last 2 days, it was like fully packed, and then we could not, even analysts could not get into the keynote. It was so packed. We were turned back. So yes.
That's pretty interesting. All right, Sanjeev, what about you? I know you're also prepared.
Yes, I'm always prepared. So I feel this particular Google Cloud Next is Google's inflection point. All these years, they've had a great story. They've had great technology, but the last mile was kind of missing, and I think they've bridged that gap. And to Sarabji's point, you can see from the customer testimonials, from the partners, it's really come together, and I think they have started firing on all cylinders, which was something that was almost there, but now we finally get to see it. And the size of this conference, when we came here last year to Mandalay Bay from San Francisco, we felt like we were a small part of this convention center, and I think they've already filled it up.
Yeah.
Where they're going to go next year? Over 32,000 people showed up in person, and like Sarabji said, we couldn't even get into the arena for the keynote, even though we had reserved seating.
Yeah, I mean, I really agree with that. I love that we're talking about this as an inflection point. I mean, Google's really having a moment.
Yes.
And I think that as people roll out these solutions for AI, they're looking at hybrid cloud. We hear that from just about everybody. And lots of partners in the room that we are getting to see behind us and all over the place, to your exact point. I mean, the footprint's growing,
Yes.
says a lot about Google's commitment to the ecosystem and to pulling together all of those pieces. And I think that's one of my big takeaways from this week is we're at an ecosystem moment. It's not just these little slices of pie that are coming out of nowhere, and Google's really leading on that front.
Can I add one more thing?
Of course.
I want to riff on what Sarabji said. He said this feels like an AI conference and not a cloud conference. Neither does it feel like a data conference.
Yeah.
Although data is such an important part of Google, but it's sort of like, under the table, like who wants to talk about data, cloud?
We
Let's
talked about
talk
data
AI.
a lot.
No, so is security, right? So is
We
security.
talk about data in
Security
almost every single interview.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I would say that this was very data forward,
I
at
see.
least from the conversations that we had on the news desk.
Very nice. Yeah, because it is so foundational. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, you can't have AI without data.
No, I was thinking that even the security was sort of on the back burner, if you will, from the messaging point of view.
I would agree with that too.
Yes.
It's a great call out.
I mean, my hot take is that you're right, inflection point, but it's really more than that. It's a coming out party as the strong number 3 in the market, and the cloud market's changing. The shares, Dave tracks it like down to the number, and Amazon numbers are still strong, but if you look at what we've been critical of them in the past, is they got to get the work done, fill in the holes, and they've done that. So up and down the stack, the market's changing, their business results, marketplace sales are up. Palo Alto announced on theCUBE $1.5 billion in sales through Google Marketplace. On the technology side, the 3 layers of the stack, infrastructure, middleware, and apps all have action, right? at the bottom of the AI, that's booming. The agent layer is not just a data platform, another Snowflake Databricks-like conference. It's much more techy, very computer science oriented, very much kind of different. And then the apps are the ecosystem, right? So if you look at the partners and the customers, it's all popping for Google. So I think they are clearly dressed for the party at the cloud game, ready to go. And I think it is an inflection point for, okay, we are here and let's keep going. And they're checking boxes. So to me, I think this is a moment where it feels, as we said, a lot like AWS in 2014, 2015.
Right.
Very curious, very, very strong, very collaborative.
Yeah.
Everyone's excited, a lot of energy. So they're popping on all cylinders. They're dressed for the party. And the party's changed and they're looking good.
So I think they have to build many support functions, having like all this positive stuff. They have a lot of work at their hand. So they have to strengthen their partner ecosystem. If you look at AWS, their stuff is polished, right, from the ecosystem side of things. They have competency programs and all that. Right now, Google is implementing those things what AWS did like 2-3 years back. They're coming out with different pricing for like different tiers of specializations and. I mean,
well, to your point about security,
all fronts, the supporting functions need to be strengthened.
Yeah, but to your point about the inflection point in your comment about security and business ops, their challenge in the past was they've always been a good technology system company, large scale, but the business side was always like, how do we get our business ops? So now, to me, it feels like they got that together. Everything's aligned up, so it's not so much.
Great call out.
They got the hiring, everything's tight. Now they know the game has changed, so they're competing on value, and I think simplicity is a good theme, and I think security, governance, and some of these other data stuff that's been kind of industry categories, they're baking in. It doesn't need to be like a whole thing. So
absolutely, it's the suite versus single tools.
It's like we have all that baked in, and so like that's why the ecosystem, to your point, Savannah, is popping because, like our last guest, they're kicking ass. You know, performance-wise.
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, to that point exactly, one of the things that I enjoyed is I think at the last 20 shows I've been at, there's a lot of conversation about what AI is going to do for us, or MVPs and POCs. What I really enjoyed about this show is we're shifting into that results. We're shifting into the ROI, to the solutions. We're starting to see how AI is helping stitch together different brain scans so that we can be faster in our diagnostics for neuroscience. We're figuring out how to predict better what you want to purchase at the dollar store. Like there's just a potpourri of conversations that we got to have on the show floor about that stuff. And it's really refreshing because all of this tech is cool, bells and whistles and speeds and feeds, but the reality is none of this matters if we don't do things that, or build things that make life better for people.
I think there's a gap here. In fact, I have a big concern because I cover AI agents a lot, that we may be running too fast from the vendor's side, leaving the business behind to catch up, and we're going to the market and saying, hey, we have all these solutions. And the business hasn't figured out what problem.
Yeah, they didn't know their business logic.
Actually, you can't find
agents running free or all around. As you said, on the highway, like autonomous cars.
Yeah.
You can find practitioners which understand the stuff, and if you talk to any Googler, even they can't count the names of all the models they have, for example, right? So I spoke to a gentleman, Manjeet Singh, he does the partner training here at Google. He leads that effort, and he said, like, the time to live for any skill is shortening. Time to live, TTL, is shortening, yes. And then one other catchy line, I will say that, because I always try to do that. So is that they showed us the Wizard of Oz movie there. I said, like, what better way of showing the state of art using art, you know? I mean, they used art to show the state of art, like all this computer
And the wizard
vision
behind the curtain is Google Cloud, I guess. Hopefully it's automated.
That was very full circle.
That is
full circle. We started with the Wizard of Oz, we're ending with the Wizard of Oz. Tapping my little red heels under the desk.
I want to pick up from what you just said. This feels like AWS reInvent 2014 or something like that. When AWS started, it was very simple set of services. You know, you had EC2, S3, and they grew from there. But then, all of a sudden, you had 15 custom databases and 5 different ways to do Kubernetes, you know, and so the complexity increased. And now AWS is trying to unify and simplify. I see Google going down the same road.
And the question I want to ask you guys is this, because look, if we zoom out and take F1 for example, because they make cars. There was a year when the car's architecture was so competitively better than the other cars, and there was an advantage. It feels like Google's got a nice F1 car right now with the simplicity. The question is, will it work? And knowing that the competitors are still going fast. So they're a good number 3 and they're growing. So as we get, Amazon's doing the same thing, what they're doing. You see what they're doing with the hyperscale. So they're retooling their hyperscale. So the question is, as the new cars are on the track, if one gasket blows, an interconnect, or if pathways doesn't work, so the question is, what do you guys see? Does he see it viable, and can they keep the pace? Will they redline? Well, can Google keep the pace up with, because Amazon's not slowing down
either.
either.
They can. Well, and I got a data point from one of our interviews to back this up. So we had the data and analytics team on the show earlier, and they have Google's team, and they have 5x the customers. They just released their first data this week. They have 5x the customers of the other competitors in the field. So I actually think they're growing faster than we realize. I think that there's a very incredible trajectory and launch an off-ramp here, where we're really going for it with this rocket ship. So my bet is yes.
And also Palo Alto supports.
The funny thing is, I see a lot of contradictions. Like Google, where I was going earlier on, was they're expanding their services and they're simplifying it. Google is expanding the ecosystem, and yet there are many ways an island by themselves. What I mean by that is AWS, Snowflake. They go hand in hand. Although they compete with Redshift, but a lot of Snowflake runs on AWS. Microsoft and Databricks, hand in hand. Although they also compete fiercely, but you can
Karitsus are forming.
I will build on top of that. Sanjeev, what you said is right. I think the separation between Google and Google Cloud is hard to do, as compared to separation between Amazon, e-commerce business, and AWS. It's a very clear separation there. They are two different, they act like two different companies.
But what's the point?
Here, do
you think that's a problem for Google or an opportunity?
It is a problem.
It's a feature or a bug?
It's a feature according to them, but for the market it's a bug. It confuses the heck out of people. Like when
I'm not sure I buy that. I mean, I can see the conflict, but Glean is search, but they have Google search. So it's going to be very, again, this is when the car starts running, does that become an issue? I don't know.
It muddies the waters. It muddies the waters, according to me.
I think the AI generation is different. I think the AI generation, AI generation is different than the SaaS generation. So remember, Amazon had the policy of not to compete with the ecosystem because it was a SaaS market. A lot of actions going on at the top of the stack on apps, so I'm not sure that's an easy thing to do one-to-one comparison to. It might be, I mean, look at Amazon, you got them doing high-end apps. Colleen Aubrey, she's doing a lot of new stuff too. They're building their own apps, so.
We'll see. I think we'll see.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
Actually, at AWS, cloud is pulling the AI. They are leading with the cloud. These guys are leading, Google is leading with the AI, and cloud is behind. Over there, cloud is the forefront, and their AI is behind. That's how I see it.
So Google has huge advantages. If you look at Databricks story, they were doing machine learning, and then they got into data warehouse. Snowflake was doing data warehouse, they got into AI, machine learning. Google had all of that already because they were running YouTube and Google search. Their problem was awareness, not technology. So they never had to say, oh, we do X, let's add on Y. They were doing X and Y.
Yeah.
Now they are up-leveling it and making it more aware to the world. And my point earlier on by saying they're an island by themselves.
They're a big island.
They're a big island, and if you are a Google customer, Google Cloud, you know all the resorts on that island. But if you're not on that island, then you don't know.
Dave Vellante told Savannah and I 2 days ago that he was talking to a friend in the hallway here and said, if YouTube makes one small modification benefit in the data center, that shifts all that sustainable value and compute to other customers in Google Cloud. Because remember, Sundar Pichai was on Keynote a little bit. He's out there. He did the bulk of the delivery. So Google proper, or Alphabet proper, is behind Google Cloud. It used to be kind of like this little stepchild over here. No, not anymore. I think this full integration on CapEx, sustainability, that's clear. So What goes behind there? I have no clue.
It's an exciting time, and we could talk about it all day long, but they're literally turning off the lights here in Mandalay Bay. Sanjeev, Sarjeet, and John, thank you so much for this fantastic closing segment, and also thank you to our beautiful production team, Tony, Coney, Andrew, and Anderson. You guys are the best. Shout out to Don Klein and Frank Fay on the sales side for us, and Dave Vellante, who is not sitting here right now, but was with us all week. Most importantly, thank all of you for tuning in for our fantastic 3 days of live coverage here in Las Vegas, Nevada. For the last time at Google Cloud Next, my name's Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.